Hello, this is Shmuel Moshe, and you are listening to the Weekly Parashahcast Season 2, the show where I read the scripture and provide my own interpretations of what I think it all means. This week's Torah portion is a double reading for Parashat Matot-Masei. We will be continuing with our reading of the book of Kings, chapters 13, 14, and 15. You could follow along in English on Chabad.org. We're going to go ahead and jump right on in, but first I'd like to remind everybody I'm not a professional scholar, just somebody who wanted to study the scripture. As I mentioned before, Chabad.org is where you'll find that translation if you'd like to follow along. This reading is for the Shabbat falling on the 1st of Av 5785, July 26th, 2025. Let's begin. Kings chapter 13, Melachim 1, verse 1. And behold, a man of God came from Judah, at the command of the Lord, to Beth-el, and Jeroboam was standing on the altar offering sacrifices. And he called in prophecy about the altar at the command of the Lord, and he said, Altar, altar, so said the Lord. Behold, a son will be born to the house of David. Josiah will be his name. And upon you he will slaughter all the priests of the high places who offer sacrifices on you, and human bones will they burn upon you. And he gave a sign on that day, saying, This is the sign that the Lord has spoken. Behold, the altar shall be split, and the ashes that are upon it shall be spilled. And it was, when the king heard the words of the man of God, which he proclaimed concerning the altar in Bethel, that Jeroboam stretched out his hand from over the altar, saying, Seize him! And his hand that he had stretched out against him became stiff, and he could not draw his hand back to himself. And the altar split, and the ashes fell from the altar in accordance with the sign that the man of God gave by the word of God. And the king responded and said to the man of God, Entreat now the Lord your God, and pray for me, that my hand be drawn back to me. And the man of God entreated the Lord, and the king's hand was drawn back to him, and it was as before. The king spoke to the man of God, Come with me to my house, and dine with me, and I shall give you a gift. The man of God said to the king, If you give me one half of your house, I will not come with you, and I will neither eat bread nor will I drink water in this place. For so has he commanded me by the words of the Lord, saying, You shall not eat bread nor drink water, neither shall you return by the road by which you have come. And he went by another road, and he did not return by the way through which he had entered Bethel. And an elderly prophet was sojourning in Bethel. And his son came to him and related to him all the deed that the man of God had performed that day in Bethel, and the words that he had spoken to the king. They related them to their father. And their father spoke to them, By which road did he go? And his sons showed him the road by which the man of God who had come from Judah had departed. And he said to his sons, Saddle for me a donkey. And they saddled a donkey for him, and he rode on it. And he went after the man of God, and he found him sitting under a terebinth. And he spoke to him, Are you the man of God who came from Judah? And he replied, I am he. And he said to him, Come with me to my house, and eat bread. And he said, I cannot return with you and come with you, and I shall not eat bread or drink water in this place. For a message came to me at the command of the Lord, You shall not eat bread, and you shall not drink water there. You shall not return to go by the road by which you arrived. And he said to him, I too am a prophet like you. And an angel spoke to me by the command of the Lord, saying, Bring him back to your house, and he shall eat bread and drink water. He lied to him. And he returned with him, and he ate bread in his house, and he drank water. As they were sitting at the table, and the word of the Lord came to the prophet who had brought him back. And he called to the man of God who had come from Judah, saying, Thus said the Lord, Because you have rebelled against the word of the Lord, and you did not keep the commandments that the Lord your God commanded you, and you returned and ate bread and drank water in the place concerning which he spoke to you, saying, You shall not eat bread nor drink water, your corpse shall not come to the grave of your forefathers. And it was after he had eaten bread and after he had drunk that he saddled the donkey for the prophet whom he had brought back. He went on his way, and a lion found him and killed him. And his corpse was thrown in the road, and the donkey was standing next to it, and the lion was standing next to the corpse. And here men were passing, and they saw the corpse thrown in the road, and the lion standing next to the corpse. they came and spoke in the city wherein the old prophet was residing. And the prophet that had brought him back from the way heard and said, It is a man of God who rebelled against the command of the Lord, and the Lord has given him to the lion. The lion has torn him asunder and killed him, true to the word of the Lord that he had spoken concerning for him. He spoke to his sons, saying, Saddle the donkey for me. And they saddled it. And he went. He discovered his corpse thrown in the road with the donkey, and the lion standing next to the corpse. The lion had not eaten the corpse, neither had it torn the donkey asunder. The prophet carried the corpse of the man of God, and he placed it on his donkey and brought it back. And he came to the old prophet's city to eulogize him and bury him. He placed the corpse in his grave, and they eulogized him. Alas, my brother! And it was after he had buried him that he said to his children, saying, At my death you shall bury me in the grave wherein the man of God is buried. Next to his bones place my bones. For the thing that he called out by the word of the Lord will come to be about the altar that is in Bethel, as about all the houses of the high places which are in the cities of Samaria. After this thing, Jeroboam did not return from his evil way, but he continued and made some of the people priests of the high places. Anyone who wished would initiate himself and become one of the priests of the high places. And because of this matter was the iniquity of the house of Jeroboam, and to cut it off and destroy it from the face of the earth. End of chapter 13. All right. So, quite a few things to recap here. First, we have a prophet, a man of God, coming out of Judah. Now, a reminder from last week, Israel and Judah have been separated. So you have Israel, which is basically all of the other tribes, and then you have Judah as well as the tribe of Benjamin, it seems may also be included here, that remain under the jurisdiction of the king of Judah. So, Jeroboam, with a J or a Y, he is the king over all of the rest of Israel, and as we noted last time, he has been building all sorts of idols of false worship. He had been staying in Egypt, now he's the king, so it seems that he brought back some of the Egyptian practices with him, and also noted, of course, that the people being put in charge as priests and so on, and these sacrifices, they're not according to the ways instructed by Moses. They are foreign ways. So this is causing tremendous consequences for the entirety of Israel, but most of all upon the house of Jeroboam. And so it says here that this man came to him. He marched in from Judah. He was a man of God, so he was a prophet. And he tells this king, Jeroboam, he says that a son will be born to the house of David. His name will be Josiah, and he's going to slaughter all the priests of the high places who offer sacrifices on you, and human bones that will they burn upon you. So he gives a warning that when it's time for this to happen, or rather proof that the Lord has spoken this, the altar shall be split, and the ashes in it or upon it shall be spilled. And so regarding this, he gives the warning. He's basically saying, everything I'm saying to you right now is going to come true, and here's proof. God's going to destroy your altar right now. And so he attempts to stop this man by reaching out and saying, seize him, but instead of this, Jeroboam's arm locks in place. And so he then entreats the man, please ask God to release my arm. And Jeroboam, pleading, gets what he asks for. The prophet entreats God to release the king's arm, and his arm is restored, and the altar smashes as promised. It splits. So because of this, it proves that this is indeed the case. So after helping the man with his arm, the king, right, after the king has helped restore his arm, the altar has been split, he asks this prophet, come to my house and have dinner with me, and I will give you a gift. And the prophet tells him, even if you gave me half of what you own, I still would not come with you, because I was given clear instructions. You're not going to eat bread, you're not going to drink, and you're going to not go home by the road you came in. So with this, he departs. Now in Bethel, there is an elderly prophet, an old man, whose sons overhear all that just went down over with the king and this man of God from Judah. And so he asks, he says, which way did he go? And They tell him he went this way, and he's like, okay, get me a donkey. And he follows after the man, and he finds him. And he invites him over for dinner, and the man of God tells him, sorry, I can't do that. God told me not to do so. And his response is, oh, well, I'm also a man of God. I'm a prophet too, just like you. And an angel of God actually told me to tell you to come eat with me. And so this is a lie, but it works. So this man of God is deceived, and he goes and has dinner at this guy's house. And he just has bread and water, basically. And then as they're dining, the elderly prophet tells him, all right, I've got a message from God for you. He says, you just violated what I told you to do, and so you're not going to be buried with your fathers. Basically, he's been sentenced to death because this prophet deceived him. So this is obviously terrible. Sure enough, as soon as he leaves, he gets attacked and killed by a lion. And this is proof that this is not just some random occurrence. The lion takes the body, or rather throws the body into the middle of the street. The donkey is still there. The lion does not attack the donkey. The lion also does not eat the man. So it was purely just a lion that killed. And the lion itself is a very significant animal, I believe, to the tribe of Judah. So this is also an extra layer of significance here. But nevertheless, he has successfully duped this man, gotten him killed by the lion, and when the people come back and say, there's a man who got killed in the road, this older prophet says, yes, that is the man of God from Judah. And so he takes his corpse and he buries it in the old prophet's city to eulogize him and bury him. And then he says, oh, my brother, and then after he's buried, he tells his children, he says, bury me next to this man. And so with this, he also adds that everything that this prophet said is definitely going to happen. So before we go into that conclusion there, what happened here? Why did this prophet do this? Why would this old man deceive the man of Judah, who was a prophet of God, and go through this whole process? So this is extremely duplicitous, obviously. But what is the benefit here? Why would you do such a thing? So there is a belief that people who have this level of holiness about them, they're often called tzaddiks, right? Righteous people, people who are touched by God. This man of God from Judah had about him a divine gift. He had a regular correspondence with the Lord. And so because of this man was inherently holy by being a man of God. Now it is said that these holy men, you could find them even today, the graves of these holy individuals are considered to be points of great spiritual holy energy. I heard one story, for example, of a very sick man who, when he was a child, he was going to die of illness, and when the medical options were all exhausted, instead his parents wrapped him up in a blanket and had him spend the night beside the grave of one of these truly holy men, and behold, he was healed. Right? And these sorts of miracles are considered to be because of the presence of holiness amongst these holy men. Where they're buried becomes a holy place to some degree. And so what this old man did was, by getting this guy killed, he secured this man's remains as being a holy boon for his city. So why would he do this? I just mentioned why, but why is he doing this explicitly? And furthermore, he's saying, why bury him side by side with this guy? Well, I think there are two possible reasons. First, we have to remember that this old man has his own family and sons. He also heard that this prophet prophesied that they would be just wiped out, basically, that there would be consequences from this man called Josiah, from David. And so what needs to happen is he wants to create a degree of, let's call it, security for his city. That's my belief here, based on the reading. So by taking the corpse of this holy man and having it buried in his city, he has helped preserve his city. Furthermore, he himself is also a holy man. Yes, he did lie and do so in a very roundabout way. He said that an angel told him rather than saying he heard it from God. So this is an interesting way to kind of roundabout the punishment that would have fallen. Either way, he managed to secure the holy remains of this man of God and bury himself next to this man of God. So the two of them side by side, one, there's a mutual blessing, but also together, these two men of God, or these two prophets, being buried here side by side, have possibly created what you could consider to be like a holy fallout shelter, right? So even if there were consequences that afflicted the entirety of the people, these two guys being there might actually make an impact and save the man's descendants, the old man's descendants who live in this town. So that's my interpretation of that section and the significance of this story. As after all, he says, "At my death you shall bury me in the grave wherein the man of God is buried. Next to his bones place my bones." So there you have it. "For the thing that he called out by the word of the Lord will come to be about the altar that is in Bethel, as about all the houses of the high places which are in the cities of Samaria." And so, again, this is him saying, why? Why am I asking you to bury me there? Because what he said is going to come true. So again, he's probably doing this to protect his own town from the consequences. Now, it notes here, after this, the king did not return from his evil way, but he continued and made some of the people priests of the high places. Anyone who wished would initiate himself and become one of the priests of the high places. Because of this was the iniquity of the house of Jeroboam, and to cut it off and destroy it from the face of the earth. So this is the sin of Jeroboam's house. And another note here, it said this in a previous chapter as well, but he basically let anybody become a priest. Anybody who wanted to could become a priest. Now, that is not the tradition. The tradition is it must be from the tribe of Levi, right? The Levites, or the Kohanim, specifically. They must be from Aaron. So if they weren't, well, there you have it. Now let's go ahead and move on to chapter 14, verse 1 in Kings 1. "At this time, Abijah, the son of Jeroboam, fell sick. And Jeroboam said to his wife, 'Arise now, and disguise yourself so that people should not know that you are the wife of Jeroboam. And you shall go to Shiloh. Behold, there is Ahijah, the prophet. He spoke about me that I would be king over this people. And you shall take in your hand 10 loaves of bread, and biscuits, and a flask of honey, and come to him. He will tell you what will be of the child.' And Jeroboam's wife did so, and she arose and went to Shiloh, and came to the house of Ahijah. Ahijah could not see, for his eyes were still, because of his advanced age. Now the Lord had said to Ahijah, 'Behold, the wife of Jeroboam is coming to ask of you concerning her son, as he is sick. You shall speak to her thus and thus.' And it was, when she arrived, she was disguised. And it was, as Ahijah heard the sound of her footsteps into the doorway, that he said, 'Come in, Jeroboam's wife. Why are you disguised? I am sent to you to tell you harsh tidings. Go say to Jeroboam, so has the Lord, the God of Israel, said, since I raised you from amidst the people, and I made you the ruler over my people Israel, and I tore the kingdom from the house of David, and I gave it to you. But you have not been like my servant David, who heeded my commandments, and who followed me with all his heart to do only what was proper in my eyes. And you have done worse than all that were before you, and you have gone and made for yourself foreign gods and molten images to anger me, and you have cast me behind your back. Therefore I shall bring disaster on the house of Jeroboam, and I will cut off Jeroboam for every male child, and those who are restrained, and those who are free in Israel. And I will expunge after the house of Jeroboam as one expunges dung until it is completed. The dead of Jeroboam in the city the dogs shall eat, and the dead in the field the birds of the heaven shall eat, because the Lord has spoken. And you arise and go to your house. As your feet come into the city, the child shall die. And all of Israel shall eulogize him and bury him. For he alone of Jeroboam shall come to a grave, because there is found in him a good deed toward the Lord, the God of Israel, in the house of Jeroboam. And the Lord shall raise for himself a king over Israel, who shall cut off the house of Jeroboam this day, and also those who will be born from now on. And the Lord shall smite Israel as a reed sways in the water. And he will uproot Israel from this good land that he has given to your fathers, and he will scatter them on the other side of the river, because they have made their trees of idol worship, which anger the Lord. And he will put Israel to shame, because of the sins of Jeroboam, that he sinned, and that he has caused Israel to sin. And Jeroboam's wife arose, and she went and arrived in Tirzah. She came unto the threshold of the house, and the youth died. And all of Israel buried him, and eulogized him as the word of the Lord that he spoke through his servant Ahijah the Shilonite. And the rest of the events of Jeroboam that he fought and how he ruled are written in the book of Chronicles of the kings of Israel. And the days that Jeroboam reigned were 22 years, and he slept with his forefathers, and his son Nadab ruled instead of him. And Rehoboam the son of Solomon ruled in Judah. 41 years of age was Rehoboam when he became king, and 17 years he reigned in Jerusalem, the city that the Lord had chosen to place his name there out of all the tribes of Israel. And his mother's name was Naamah the Ammonitess. And Judah did what displeased the Lord, and they angered him more than their forefathers had done with their sins that they sinned. And they too built for themselves high places, monuments, and trees for idol worship on every high hill, and under every green tree. And also adultery was in the land. They did as all the abominations of the nations that the Lord had driven out from before the children of Israel. And it came to pass in the 5th year of King Rehoboam that Shishak the king of Egypt came up against Jerusalem. And he took the treasures of the house of the Lord, and the treasures of the king's palace, and he took everything, and he took all the golden shields that Solomon had made. King Rehoboam made copper shields instead of them, and he put them under the jurisdiction of the captain of the runners that guarded the door of the king's palace. And it was, whenever the king went to the house of the Lord, the runners would carry them, and return them to the runner's chamber. And the rest of the events of Rehoboam, and all that he did, they are written in the book of Chronicles of the kings of Judah. And there was a war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam constantly. And Rehoboam lay with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David. And his mother's name was Naamah the Ammonitess, and Abijam his son reigned in his place. End of chapter 14. All right, so now we hear about what's going on in the houses of Jeroboam and Rehoboam. So it says here that Abijah, the son of Jeroboam, fell sick. So this is in response to what we heard from the prophet, the man of God, in the previous chapter. And so Jeroboam, schemingly, he says to his wife, take the child and go see this prophet Ahijah, and he's the one who said I would be king. So take him, and he's going to tell you what will happen to this child. Take 10 loaves of bread, biscuits, and a flask of honey. Why these? So in my opinion, it was probably 10 loaves because of 10 tribes that he was overseeing. Biscuits and a flask of honey. My guess with the biscuit, I don't know if there's a particular reason. It could be related to the manna. The flask of honey, of course, the land of milk and honey. I don't know of those things, but certainly the 10 loaves, that is my significant guess there. Anyway, she obeys, and Ahijah is now blind from his age, but he still receives the word of God, right? So she arrives, and as she steps in, he basically says, yes, the wife of Jeroboam is here with the child. So God gives him a heads up, basically, and as soon as she arrives, he says, why are you disguised? I am sent to you to tell you harsh tidings. So basically, she shows up asking for the news. Before she can even ask, he says, you're here. Let me give you the news. And so he basically relays the message. You blew it. I raised you from the people to make you ruler. I gave you the kingdom from the house of David, but unlike David, you have not honored my commandments, and you have not followed me, and you've done things I don't like, and you've gone even further than that. You've made foreign gods and molten images. You've really upset me here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to destroy your house. All of the children, all the men of your house, and those who are restrained and those who are free in Israel, right? So just all of them. I'm going to wipe them out until there's nothing left. I'm going to exterminate them. Expunged as one expunges dung until it is complete. So it's going to be so bad, the dead of your house will be eaten by the dogs in the street, and the dead in the field, the birds of the heaven will eat, because the Lord has spoken. However, there's one exception. This boy, this child right here, who is sick, he alone will receive a eulogy and an honorable death that will be mourned by the whole people. Why? Because at least in this child, there was a good deed toward the Lord God of Israel in the house of Jeroboam. So this one kid, though he is dying, at least he will have an honorable procession for him. And then after this, a king will cut off the house of Jeroboam, he'll be brought out of Israel, and also all those who will be born from now on. So the Lord shall smite Israel as a reed sways in the water. He will uproot Israel from this good land. He will scatter them on the other side of the river because they've made their trees of idol worship, which anger the Lord. He'll put Israel to shame because of the sins of Jeroboam that he sinned and has caused Israel to sin. So, having received this terrible report, the wife of Jeroboam takes her child and gets to Tirzah, and as she arrives at the house, the boy has died. And so all of Israel buries him, eulogizes him, and sure enough, everything is going according to the word of Ahijah the Shilonite. It says here that all the things that happened while he was king and his wars and so on are in the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel. He reigned as king for 22 years and then slept with in the graves of his forefathers, or returned to his ancestors, and then his son Nadab took over. Now, following over on the side of David in Judah, Rehoboam, son of Solomon, ruled in Judah. 41 years of age was he when he became the king, and he was king for 17 years. And so for that, he was the son of Naaman the Ammonitess. Judah also did things that displeased God. So similarly, they angered him more than their forefathers had done with the sins that they sinned. So they had done the same thing. They built these high places and these monuments and trees and so on. Adultery was in the land. So it was bad for everybody. So during the 5th year of the king of Rehoboam, or the king Rehoboam, the king of Egypt comes up, and he basically goes to war, takes all of the treasures from the king's palace. He takes the golden shields that Solomon made, and it says that Rehoboam had made copper shields to replace them, put them under the jurisdiction of the captain of the runners that guarded the door of the king's palace. And it was, whenever the king went to the house of the Lord, the runners would carry them and return them to the runner's chamber. So I can imagine the idea is basically when the king says he's going to go pray or do something at the house of the Lord, all these men with their shields are going to run and sort of guide him along safely there and back. And it says here that everything that he did in Rehoboam's time as king are in the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah, right? So we have the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel and the Chronicle of the Kings of Judah, two separate dynasties. It says here there was a war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam continually, so constant civil war between the tribes of Israel. And it says when he died, he lay with his fathers and was buried in the city of David. His mother was Naaman the Ammonitess, and Abijam, his son, reigned in his place. Now moving on to the final chapter for this episode, chapter 15, the Book of Kings, verse 1. But before I say that, it is worth noting that his mother was an Ammonite. So, interesting. Book of Kings, chapter 15, verse 1. And in the 18th year of the king of Jeroboam, the son of Nabat Abijam ruled over Judah. 3 years he ruled in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Maachah, the daughter of Abishalom. And he went in all the sins of his father that he had done before him. And his heart was not complete with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. For because of David, the Lord his God gave him rule in Jerusalem to set up his son after him to preserve Jerusalem. Since David did what was just in the eyes of the Lord, and he did not turn away from all that the Lord had commanded him all the days of his life, except in the matter of Uriah the Hittite, and there was war between Rehoboam and between Jeroboam all the days of his life. And the rest of the events of Abijam and all that he did are written in the book of Chronicles of the Kings of Judah. And there was war between Abijam and Jeroboam. And Abijam slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David, and Asa his son reigned in his stead. And in the 20th year of Jeroboam, king of Israel, Asa ruled over Judah. 41 years he ruled in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Maachah, the daughter of Abishalom. And Asa did what was just in the eyes of the Lord, as had done David his father. And he abolished the adulterers from the land, and he removed the idols that his father had made. And also Maachah, his mother, he removed from being queen, for she had made a frightful image for an Asherah, and Asa cut off her image and burnt it in Kidron Valley. The high places he did not remove, but Asa's heart was complete with the Lord all of his days. And he brought his father's consecrated things and his own consecrated things into the house of the Lord, silver and gold and vessels. There was war between Asa and Baasha, the king of Israel, all their days. And Baasha, the king of Israel, went up against Judah and built a high tower, so that nobody belonging to Asa, the king of Judah, would be able to leave or enter. And as Asa took all the silver and gold that remained in the treasures of the house of the Lord and the treasuries of the king's house, and he entrusted them in the hands of his servants. And King Asa sent them to Ben-Hadad, the son of Tabrimon, the son of Hezion, king of Aram, who resided in Damascus, saying, There is a treaty between you and between my father and your father. Behold, I have sent to you a bribe of silver and gold. Go abrogate your treaty with Baasha, king of Israel, that he depart from me. And Ben-Hadad listened to King Asa, and he sent the captains of his armies against the cities of Israel. And he struck Iyon, and Dan, and Abel-Bet, and all Kinnereth with all the land of Naphtali. And as Baasha heard this, he refrained from building the high tower, and he resided in Tirzah. King Asa proclaimed to all Judah without exception, and they carried the stones of the high tower and its timber with which Baasha had built it, and King Asa built with it Geba of Benjamin and Mitzpah. The remainder of the acts of Asa and all his mighty deeds and all that he accomplished and the cities which he built, they are inscribed in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah. However, during his old age he was stricken with a foot ailment. And Asa lay with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David his father, and Jehoshaphat his son reigned in his stead. And Nadab the son of Jeroboam reigned over Israel during the 2nd year of Asa, king of Judah, and ruled over Israel 2 years. He did what was bad in the eyes of the Lord, and he went in the way of his father, and in his sin that he had caused Israel to sin. And Baasha, the son of Ahiah, of the house of Issachar, conspired against him, and Baasha struck him at Gibbethon, which belonged to the Philistines, when Nadab and all Israel were laying siege to Gibbethon. And Baasha slew him in the 3rd year of Asa, the king of Judah, and ruled in his stead. And it was, as soon as he was king, he slew all the house of Jeroboam. He did not leave over any person belonging to Jeroboam, until he destroyed it, according to the word of the Lord through his servant Ahiah the Shilonite. For the sins of Jeroboam which he had sinned and caused Israel to sin because of his angering, which he angered the Lord, the God of Israel. And the rest of the events of Nadab and all that he did, they are inscribed in the book of Chronicles of the kings of Israel. And there was war between Asa and Baasha, the king of Israel, all their lives. During the 3rd year of Asa, king of Judah, Baasha the son of Ahijah reigned over all of Israel in Tirzah 24 years. And he did what was bad in the eyes of the Lord, and he went in the way of Jeroboam, and in his sins that he had caused Israel to sin. And with that, we are at the end of chapter 15. Let's go ahead and do our recap. So we now learn about the different kings back and forth. So here we have in the 18th year of Jeroboam, the son of Nabat, Abijam, ruled over Judah. So what will happen is it will kind of give us a sense of time and place. During this year of the Judean king, this person will become Israel's king, and then in this year of the Israeli king, the Israelite king, this person will become king of Judah, and back and forth. So it says the king named Nabat, he is appointed over Judah. He's son of Nabat, Abijam. So Abijam, his mother was Maachah, the daughter of Abishalom. So it says that he went in all the sins of his father. His heart was not complete with the Lord. So unfortunately, this is the same deal with Judah also following in similar footsteps of what Israel's been doing. It's just not going good. Both sides are failing to honor the Lord. And it says that, for David, or because of David, the Lord his God gave him rule in Jerusalem to set up his son after him to preserve Jerusalem, right? So this is the deal he has with David. Because David was honorable and kept his word, except for when it came to that one time with Uriah the Hittite. And so between Rehoboam and Jeroboam, there's war, right? It never ends. Now, Abijam's deeds are all recorded in the Chronicles, and then he goes to war with Jeroboam as well, and then he dies, and his son Asa takes over. So 20th year of Jeroboam, king of Israel, Asa rules over Judah. So this is a 2-year reign, right? 18th year of Jeroboam, Abijam becomes king. In the 20th year, his son Asa succeeds him. So it's a very, very short time that he has the throne. Asa, on the other hand, is very much the opposite of many of these guys. It says here that Asa was correct in his ways. So 41 years he ruled in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Maachah, the daughter of Abishalom. So Asa will be the king for 41 years. And it says, as I mentioned before, he did what was just in the eyes of the Lord. He was similar to David in his ways. He banishes or abolishes adultery, removes the idols, and also he took his mother off of the throne. It said she had made a frightful image for Asherah, so Asa cut off her image and burnt it in Kidron Valley. He's doing all the right stuff. Now, the only thing he did not do was remove the high places, right? But his heart, it says, was complete with the Lord all his days. He brought his father's consecrated things and his own consecrated things into the house of the Lord, silver and gold vessels. So significance here, remember, it had been plundered when the Egyptian king came. So now he has brought in these consecrated things to replenish this. Now, it says that there is war between Asa and Baasha, king of Israel, all their days. So Baasha, we're going to learn about him in a moment, but basically he builds this high tower which prevents people from Asa's kingdom from being able to come or go, right? So he's basically built, you can consider like a big wall or something that seals in, a high tower, maybe being able to look over it and shoot them with arrows if they try to leave, whatever there is. So Asa, looking at the circumstances, makes a strategic investment. He takes all the silver and gold that he's got left in the treasuries in his house and in the house of the Lord, and he gives them to his servants, and he sends them to a person named Ben-Hadad, the son of Tabrimon, the son of Chazon, king of Aram, who resides in Damascus. So Aram being the Arameans, right? So he sends this very clever move. He reminds, there is a treaty between me and you, and between my father and your father. So he's saying, we've been allies across generations. Behold, I have sent you a bribe of silver and gold. Go abrogate your treaty with Baasha, king of Israel, that he depart from me. So with this, he is essentially saying, here's a bunch of money, end your peace treaty with Israel, and go fight Baasha, and then that way he'll leave me alone. So he's basically saying, my ally, who was also allies with my father and your father, please help me stop my enemy from bothering me by ending your peace treaty with them and go attack them. And so this is successful. Ben-Hadad listens to this counsel, or listens to this request, this bribe. He sends the captains of his armies against the cities of Israel. It says he struck Iyon, Dan, and Abel-Beth-Maachah, and all Kinneret with all the land of Naphtali. So as Baasha hears this, he basically stops building this tower and remains where he's at in Tirzah, right? So he returns to where he's at, or he stays in the house in Tirzah. So from here, Asa tells all the people of Judah to go take the materials, the raw materials from this tower and its timber and so on. And what we're going to do is we're going to use those materials to build the cities, build with it Geba of Benjamin and Mitzpah. So he's basically repurposing what was supposed to be used to impede them. This was a very good investment. So he convinced the Arameans to go to war with Baasha. And then once Baasha retreats from his war with Jerusalem, they go and they take all what was left behind and use it to build cities. Very good move. Now it says here, the remainder of the acts of all his mighty deeds, etc., they're all written in the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah. However, during his old age, he was stricken with a foot ailment. So that's interesting. It's just like a very interesting thing. Why his foot? I'm not entirely sure. I do recall that, the idea of just something like this preventing his movement. I don't know. It may be that this consequence may be something that was done to him because he hired the enemy to come attack Israel, but I don't know. It could just be there's no convenient or no coincidences, right? So he was stricken with a foot ailment. Either way, he was buried and lay with in the grave of his fathers. His son Yehoshaphat takes over. And so also Nadab, son of Jeroboam, reigns over Israel during the second year of Asa, king of Judah, and he only rules for 2 years. And similarly, he is very not good. So Baasha, the son of Ahijah, the house of Issachar, conspired against him, and he struck him at Gibbethon, which belonged to the Philistines, when Nadab and all Israel were laying siege to Gibbethon. So this explains what happens here with the craziness of the changing of who's king of Israel. So basically, during a siege against the Philistines, Baasha leads an attack against the current king, Nadab, and he defeats them. And so after this, he becomes the king after killing Nadab, and he also goes on a cleaning house killing spree. All the house of Jeroboam, he does not leave over anyone, no survivors. He completely destroys it, according to the word, as it says, according to the word of Ahijah, the Shilonite. So this guy here, Baasha, is the son of Ahijah of the house of Issachar. So it sort of gives you a full perspective here that Baasha was himself of this prophet's line, or at least of his household. He becomes the king, and this is the consequence for Jeroboam. They're all wiped out. Now it says that Baasha and Nadab, they have war. He defeats Nadab. Asa and Baasha stay in war all their lives. During the 3rd year of Asa, king of Judah, Baasha, the son of Ahijah, reigned over all of Israel in Tirzah 24 years. He did what was bad in the eyes of the Lord, and he went in the way of Jeroboam, and in his sin that he had caused Israel to sin. So unfortunately, history just keeps on repeating itself for those of them who live outside of Judah, and really Asa is like a breath of fresh air. He's the only one who follows the same way as David, so he has preserved Judah. Baasha, on the other hand, things are looking rough. In any case, that's the end of this week's episode of the Weekly Parashahcast. It's very interesting to see what's going on with this, just constant falling in and out of favor with God, constantly straying from their ways. It's a tale as old as time. It just keeps on happening, and it seems like it's going to keep on happening, and you gotta wonder, how does this keep on happening, right? Is it just because they left so many foreigners in their midst? I don't know, but whatever the case, the consequences are dire. Until next time, this has been Shmuel Moshe with the Weekly Parashahcast Season 2 saying thank you for listening, and I hope you'll tune in next time. Until then, Baruch Hashem.